All right, this video is going to be a little bit weird. I'm driving to work, and for the next 15 minutes, I thought I would talk about something that might just be a little confusing to people who know me and know my usual video, like daily video, semi-daily video post. These are just for people who want to watch them. They're not for people who don't want to watch them. So don't complain in the comments below that it was a short video that lasted 15 minutes. So just let me tell you what it's about, and then if you want to watch it, you can watch it, and if you don't, you don't. I want to talk about Kendrick Lamar, his beef with Drake, and specifically what went down at the Super Bowl halftime show and why people need to not say stupid things about it. Because sometimes when you say stupid things about really smart things, all you really do is demonstrate your own stupidity. I know this is a snobby video. I'll get to that in 1 second. You demonstrate your own stupidity in the sense of you demonstrate your lack of understanding and your willingness to speak about things when you don't understand them. And you kind of demonstrate your sort of possibly other bad things. Like if you thought that was about black people and white people, and your response to it was, oh, look, a bunch of black people hooping and hollering, you didn't just demonstrate that you were stupid, you kind of demonstrated that you're racist. And I know Christian, conservative, evangelical, Bible believers who believe the Word of God is the authority in all things are not allowed to point at things and say, don't be racist, because our tribe says that doesn't exist. When I see people posting memes of like third world African tribes jumping around and saying basically the halftime show, I think they're being stupid and racist. So I'm going to talk about that while I drive to work. Like it or not like it, I realize that a lot of the people that probably like me and watch this feel like I just called them stupid and racist. Let me just fix that a little bit and say, you're probably not actually stupid and you're probably not actually racist, but your tribe and the expected things that you post are making you post stupid racist things. Let's go to work. All right, so here's the deal. Kendrick Lamar and Drake, they're both rappers, right? I'll say stupid stuff if I try to get into like which rappers with which person and which West Coast, East Coast, whatever, all that stuff. I can't speak about that intelligently or whatever. But I do want to say that whereas like I don't listen to rap music or hip hop on the regular, I have at times listened to some rap, some hip hop, and certainly went through a big phase back with the 116 Click before they kind of all just sort of got mushy-minded and lost in it all. But anyway, secular rap and stuff, I pay attention to it enough because I watch, sports and it intersects and stuff. But anyway, so there's a big beef that's going on between the rap hip-hop artist Drake, and Drake is with the man. Drake is the man's artist and is a very popular, beloved, all access, media darling type rap artist who is associated with all of the things and leaders and ideas and stuff that most Christians would not want to be associated with. Drake is not a Christian. He's a Canadian Jew. And I don't know if he's like a practicing Jew or whatever, but he's not like a Christian. There's nothing Christian about him. Very worldly, secular minded. Says bad things about a lot of stuff. His music, like a lot of other artists' music, is, I think, in the end, without having listened to all of his music, there's enough sort of like it needs women to be objectified and that gang life to be like pedestaled and stuff like that. Drake also happens to be a Disney kid. Okay, so he's like a silver spoon, he's manufactured. Okay, just for the sake of this, talented musician, talented artist, whatever, but he's a manufactured from a young age. Hey, you're young, you're gonna be good looking, you're gonna be like a star, let's just raise you up in this industry and make you say the thing. He's a puppet. Okay, so he's a puppet. Sorry, I'm being mean to Drake, but Drake doesn't care because that don't matter to Drake. But he's kind of a puppet, and he is in line with this is the big Hollywood media controlled stuff. And his music and the people who listen to his music need to be kept just entertained, blithely aware or unaware, and not very thoughtful about who they are, how they're seen, and how they're used by Hollywood, the media, and the political forces that be, and ultimately the powers and principalities above all of them that are manipulating people who we're warring against. That's Drake. All right, Kendrick Lamar doesn't have the same background as Drake. He's not a Disney kid. He didn't come up with that silver spoon. He did not, he's super talented lyricist and comes from the actual culture that he is making music for. And without going all into it, I'm not saying he's like a hardcore Christian. I'm not saying he's, even a Christian. Some people would say he's a Christian, whatever. He's definitely someone who believes that there is, he has deep thoughts on the existence of God and that God speaks to him and that some of the things that he's doing are being, encouraged by God and stuff. I don't want to speak to any of that. But the beef that's between them wraps into a lot of their backgrounds, who they represent, and the music that they're making for people. And at the crescendo of the beef, there were a bunch of what they call diss tracks that go back and forth. And, so Drake, I don't know, I bet you Kendrick was responding to something, but Kendrick probably started it, but he's responding to something that he knew. And part and parcel to this that everybody will know, because everybody knows the news, Drake is part of that life that ends up at the P. Diddy parties, the Puff Daddy parties, whatever, Sean William Combs, P. Diddy, the Diddy parties, right? That we've all seen. He's in jail. We're talking lots of rape, lots of pedophilia, lots of sex trafficking, that sort of thing, right? And Drake is part of the society and culture that goes to those parties and is a part of that and engages in that. And generally, it gets to be covered up. They get to do these things, they get to commit these crimes, they get to objectify, they get to do all these things, but they make music that keeps the masses empty-minded and down and usable for political parties, primarily the left, right? And also to be seen as enemies by the right. And it's this mass sort of indoctrination game that is being hoisted on a large segment of our society, in particular, the hip-hop, African-American community, urban communities, whatever. And so there's this beef that's going on between these two guys as artists from different kinds of schools in hip-hop, but it's also bigger than that, and it goes into do you represent us, actual urban culture people that grew up in the hood, or are you manufactured to make music for us to keep us thinking that we are and should be seen and viewed the way that we are, et cetera, et cetera? You're manufactured. And so the diss tracks that went back and forth between Kendrick and Lamar, crescendoed with Kendrick Lamar's song, They Not Like Us. And They Not Like Us has more to it than I'm going to talk about here. But the big controversial thing is that he outwardly connects Drake and other people that are with Drake to things like the Diddy parties and the fact that, there's some evidence and stuff about, Drake liking younger people, and you know that it's kind of like a known thing that he's done this, but it's not a known enough thing that he could be charged with it. So what Kendrick does is calls him a certified pedophile in his song. And you know, and in the song he does it very cleverly. Like lyrically, Kendrick Lamar is, I mean, he's won the Pulitzer Prize. I mean, he's like an actual genius. And that's one thing, you shouldn't look at that halftime show and be like, well, that was stupid. It was not stupid. It was high level art. It's just written in a language that you may not understand, and there are references that you may not be getting because it's just not your culture, and also you're not aware of all this backstory. But lyrically speaking, in the song he says that Drake, you know, better not ever end up in a cell block because he's a certified pedophile, and that people know that, and we all know what happens to pedophiles in prison. And so he's making a reference to that, and then also he ends that stanza. I don't think they'd call it a stanza, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he ends that verse with you know, a very clever line about Drake trying to strike a chord, but it's probably a minor, right? So he's saying that Drake is trying to get with minors. Okay? Now, in the Super Bowl halftime show, all of this backstory, everything that I'm talking about, gets brought in together in a under 15-minute halftime show with all the choreography, and he's speaking to the bigger meta thing about like, not like that there's a game being played against people and putting them in like a certain box and expectation, and they're supposed to make music that you know lulls the masses and entertains, and so Drake's doing this thing, or not Drake, Lamar is doing this thing where, you know, he starts out like on the hood of a hoopty, and like all of his friends, you know, representing his culture come out, and they're dressed in red, white, and blue. They are America. And, you know, there's this sort of like clever stuff that's going on, like, you know, whether you like it or not, it's still clever. Like, we built America. So like the American flag is made of black people, like slaves built the country kind of comment. Like, you may or may not like that, but you can't say it's stupid. It's really good art as far as expressing his point of view. And so there's a bunch of choreography like that that's built in, and you have Samuel Jackson, the actor, playing Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam, and there's layers upon layers here. Like, Samuel L. Jackson in Django Unchained, a movie from whatever 10 years ago or whatever, played a Uncle Tom figure. Now, Uncle Tom, the book is really good, and Uncle Tom is not a bad person, but an Uncle Tom in our culture is like a compliant house inward. And anyway, so he's playing that character, an updated revision, and now he's Uncle Sam, right? So now Samuel L. Jackson is now Uncle Sam, a black guy dressed in the patriotic garb, telling Kendrick Lamar that he's got to put on a show and make the kind of music that the masses will like, that'll be acceptable and stuff. He's telling Kendrick Lamar that he needs to be Drake, okay? And what Drake symbolizes. And Kendrick Lamar's like, hey, you know what? You picked the right time, but the wrong guy to do the Super Bowl halftime show. And so he does a Super Bowl halftime show, and he builds in all of this stuff, pulling from Squid Games, pulling from Bread and Circuses type, like all stuff like Cicero, y'all. Like, there's like stuff like going back. And the choreography and the way things move from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And he's playing older songs that appeal only to like his most devoted fans that get it. And then he plays some new songs that he started playing as part of the industry, as the industry started listening to him. And then Uncle Sam is trying to pat him on the back and say, yes, these are the songs. Stay on that. These are songs that he played for the Black Panther soundtrack, which I don't think he thinks are bad. He's just saying, this is the kind of music they want me to play, but I'm going to play this other music. And then he starts saying they don't, all through it, he's saying they don't want me to play this song that I just won all these Grammys for, called They Not Like Us. Because They Not Like Us is the song that calls out Drake. And Drake is suing Kendrick Lamar for that song because it's defamation of character, and trying to get the label, that they're both on the same label, trying to get the label to not carry this, to do something about this. All right. And he's flirting with playing it the whole time. If you know the song, you hear little pieces of it throughout the whole thing. So that also is high art. He's like musically, it's high art. He's bringing in like portions of the song to hint, ooh, he's about to play the song. Oh my gosh. You know, and everyone who knows is like, oh my gosh, is he got to call Drake a pedophile in the Super Bowl halftime show? Dang, this beef has gone to like, because the Super Bowl halftime show is the most watched musical event of the year. And so he's doing this, right? And he's hinting at he's going to do it, and everyone knows he's going to do it, but then a lot of people think, no, surely he's not going to do it. And they think, well, if he does it, he's not going to do that part. And then he finally gets to that part after Sam Jackson took his life. So the Samuel Jackson Uncle Sam character takes his life. He goes, oh, don't do that. One life take. You know, he's like, that's a warning. And then Kendrick Lamar gets into the song that everyone thinks that he shouldn't play, but they wanted to play and all that kind of stuff. And then he does it. But when he gets to the certified pedophile part, he does not say the word pedophile loud on the Super Bowl halftime stage, but he still says the line about striking a chord, and it's probably A minor. And the whole show, he's wearing a blinged out silver necklace with a lowercase a, diamond-studded lowercase a. All right, so I mentioned like a bunch of stuff here, and I probably tapped about 5% of it, you know. And if Kendrick Lamar watched this video, he'd be like, you guys missing this and this and this and this and this. Because the guy is a bona fide genius, he's speaking in a language that isn't my language, and he is at the same time doing something that's deeply personal, right? Him and a guy, he's on that layer. Then he's doing something between like one set of hip hop artists and another. It's communal. Then he's going all the way up to like this sort of meta level about there's like a game that's being played with us and we're being puppeted, and he connects that to the communal and the purpose and the personal, and he draws it all together in the vehicle of this beef with this rapper, and it actually plays into, when it's all said and done, the fact that it's the Super Bowl and it's this big game and we're supposed to just be watching it. And he ends the whole thing with like a newer, like, turn off your TV, turn off your TV, which is a phrase that he's using, I think, as a sort of stop being indoctrinated, stop being led, stop being tricked by the Drakes who are manipulated by these powers and these principalities, and they have you playing a game so they can use you politically and otherwise. Turn it all off. Stop this. Reject the Drakes. And Drake, at this point, is a symbol of the people who would protect Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, because we'll protect him and all of his evil and everything he's doing, and we'll do it too, because we're all doing it together, as long as he makes music and keeps the masses stupid, right? So here's the deal, and why I'm making this video. I think what happened there is an instance of like genius. It's just an instance of genius, but a lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand the story, they don't understand the lyrics, they don't understand what's going on. But a lot of people do. I mean, look at me. I do. Like, I'm a 45-year-old white male who fights abortion and like reads history of the 19th century daily and studies my Bible daily. Like, I understand what's going on there, right? and enough. So he's speaking to a sizable population. Everybody in that debate he's speaking to. And then everybody in the wider sort of what's going on in our world with, manipulation of higher powers and the control of people, and it all falls down, and then it's depravity towards the innocents among us. So to me, it was kind of like abolitionism, right? To me, it was like I was looking at it and I'm like, it's not about abortion, but it's the same thing. It's the same battles. It's the same sort of like, there are these people that are approved and that you need to listen to them, and then you don't need to listen to these other people. Like, you need to listen to the big pastors that tell you to be apathetic and to be okay and peace when there's no peace. Like, just be entertained. Like, he's like Kendrick Lamar in his own way is saying, like, they've made Drake and he tickles ears and he pours poison and people don't care because they're pawns. And that's what abolitionists are doing in a very similar way. We're like, listen to these pastors, they get you apathetic, you don't do what you need to do, but that's okay, because peace when there is no peace, and like, it's okay, there's no destruction, like, just keep doing what you're doing, be okay. Bread and circuses, all this kind of stuff. And so I see a lot of analogs, and the reason I'm making this particular video for, I don't know if there's 10 people still watching it right now, but the reason I'm making this particular video is that when I see tons of abolitionists and tons of would-be abolitionists, evangelical Christians, and really conservatives, a lot of people that didn't say anything, they're just thoughtful people that are like, well, I don't know what's going on, I'm not going to say anything. But then there's a lot of people that, because they have to constantly comment on whatever hot take thing is out there to prove that they're conservative, basically saying stupid racist stuff about this show. Now, the one thing I think you can say about the show, and it's valid, is something like, that was boring. That was long-winded. It was, for people who don't like that music and aren't used to hearing that music, boring and long-winded. It would be like people listening to Bach before Bach was cool. It would be like, it's like people that, heard rock and roll for the first time. I guess they wouldn't say it was boring, but they would say it's the opposite. It's too not boring. It's too unstructured or something like that. And so what's going on here, and the reason I'm saying this, is because there are things that I want to do in order to fight these battles with these powers and principalities and their underlings that they put forward as pawns. And whenever I'm trying to make arguments, sometimes they're seen as long-winded and boring. Give me just the talking points and keep it simple and just fit into the conversation that you're allowed to have. Don't go off. You don't say this or don't say that, and you don't, here's your lane. Your logos need to look like this. Your art needs to look like this. If you do music, it needs to sound like this, right? When people have to be iconoclasts of ideas, oftentimes they're also iconoclasts of forms. And I know that I'm going different, you're like, what? Think about that. I'm saying like abolitionists are not just challenging the ideas of the pro-life establishment and the man, but we also challenge the ways that we go about it. Like the strategies, the ideas that, like, in order to change things, you got to have a broad tent. In order to change things, you got to be secular. In order to change things, you can't say this, you can't say that. That won't work. If you're talking to legislators, do it in this way, all this kind of stuff. And so someone like me comes along and is doing what I'm doing and is oftentimes seen as boring and stupid and wrong. I don't know if I've ever seen it as boring, but you know what I'm saying? Like, denounced as not doing it the way that we're all doing it. And that's what's going on whenever you denounce Kendrick Lamar. Now, I want to conclude this by saying, I'm not saying that you should go out and listen to Kendrick Lamar, that he's an upstanding human in all these other areas, or that his music will be edifying to you, or that there aren't things wrong with it. I'm just explaining what the beef is about and how it plays into this multi-level artistic expression and message that I think is ultimately a very good message for the urban hip-hop community and anyone who listens to that, because actually it's not just people from the hood that listen to that music. It's people from all levels of society that listen to that music, and all of them are being told to turn off their TVs, stop being indoctrinated and being pawned by these puppets who are being played with by these Uncle Sams. If you didn't understand anything of what I'm saying, just don't post like a picture of a bunch of hooping and hollering Africans from Africa and say, "Oh, it's the it's the Super Bowl show." That just proves that you're either not smart enough to get it, which I bet you are smart enough to get it, but it proves that you are not interested in being smart enough to get it, or thoughtful enough to wait and say something until after you understand. And you might be racist.